from the EACEA. To make it a bit shorter, Klaus, let us have your introductory words, please.
Thank you very much. Dear Professor Jotka, Rector of the University of Vilnius, dear Professor Mettinger, distinguished conference participants and experts, dear colleagues from the European Commission, it is my pleasure definitely to welcome you to this international conference that gathers once more the Bologna experts from the countries that participate in the EU's lifelong learning program and the higher education reform experts from the Tempus partner countries in the Western Balkans, the Southern Mediterranean, Eastern Europe and Central Asia. I am speaking here, it has been mentioned, as a representative of the Executive Agency for Education, Audiovisual and Culture, and we at the agency have been tasked by the European Commission to implement the Tempus program. And it is together with the colleagues from the Directorate General for Education and Culture that we are organizing this major international conference. My particular thanks obviously go to the University of Vilnius and to you, Rector, Professor Jotka, for hosting the event and for making these beautiful premises available to us. We are here in the University Theatre of the oldest, I think, university in Central and Eastern Europe. The Rector has just mentioned that the university was founded in 1579, so over 450 years ago. It is a very old and very reputed institution, and you will have seen when coming here, we are here in the middle of the magnificent old town of Vilnius, which since 20 years is now a part of the UNESCO's World Cultural Heritage. Please allow me also to thank the UNICA network for assisting us and for supporting us so much over the last years in setting up these events, and to thank also Chris de Jonker, the Secretary General of the UNICA network, for all the precious assistance that has been made available to us over the past years. Once more, ladies and gentlemen, we have in this conference over 50 countries that are participating here today. For me, I think that it is particularly important that this event takes place once more as a joint event between the Bologna experts and the experts coming from the Tempus countries. It is my pleasure really to note that 24 out of the 27 Tempus countries are represented here today. We have in the audience around 50 experts coming from the Tempus countries, and as you can imagine, I'm very pleased about that. I'm also glad to see that the Tempus experts are taking very much an active role in the organization of the discussions and the debates. They're acting nowadays as keynote speakers, as chairman, you will see tomorrow, of working groups, and they're taking really a lead role now also in engaging in the interactive debate with the Bologna promoters. The choice of the topic of this particular conference was relatively obvious. As we have just heard, ministers of education from the 47 Bologna countries have met just 6 weeks ago in Bucharest to take stock of the achievements of the Bologna process and to look at future priorities in establishing and in achieving the European higher education area. Ministers noted indeed that huge progress had been made, but that some action lines still needed to be further implemented. And ministers obviously also, which is normal in these kinds of events, outlined challenges and priorities for the years to come, which included issues that we will be looking at during the next days, such as the employability of university graduates, learning mobility, and also the systematic introduction of national qualification frameworks. As it was already the case for the last Bologna ministerial meeting, the Bucharest conference was also the occasion to organize what is called a third Bologna Policy Forum with high-level delegations from 19 non-European higher education area countries that for geographical reasons are not a formal part of the Bologna process, but that nevertheless take Bologna as a reference point and as a benchmark for their higher education policies. And if I'm not mistaken, 5 out of the 19 non-European higher education area countries participating in the Bologna Policy Forum were actually Tempus partner countries from the Southern Mediterranean area. During the Bologna Policy Forum, delegations reaffirmed the public responsibility for higher education and agreed on the need to promote learning mobility across boundaries, as well as the need to ensure relevance of university degrees to the needs of the labor market. Delegations also underlined in the Policy Forum the need that it was a priority to further promote regional exchanges and to foster peer learning, and that is very much what we will be concerned about during the next 2 days here among all these different delegations participating in this Bologna conference. And from a Tempus point of view, obviously, I'm very glad that one of the Tempus partner countries, namely Armenia, will take the lead in the Bologna Secretariat and will actually host the next ministerial meeting in 3 years, in 2015. Against this background, the conference here in Vilnius comes definitely at the right point in time. It is indeed important for you as experts and as promoters to analyze in detail the conclusions from the Bucharest ministerial meeting, to look at your role, to look at your responsibilities, and maybe also to refocus certain parts of your work in the future. The activities of the Tempus experts that I would like to address very briefly, as we call them, are really impressive. We have just issued a report on the activities of the Tempus experts in 2011, and this report that we presented this morning more in detail really shows the richness and the huge diversity of different activities that are being undertaken by the Tempus experts at national level. And I certainly would like here and now to thank all the Tempus experts for all the good work that has been going into this over the past years. Tempus has been providing support to the higher education reform experts just since 4 years. It is a relatively young activity, unlike the Bologna experts that have been funded by the European Union for quite some time. For Tempus, it is a relatively new activity, but nevertheless an activity that with very little money has really managed to achieve quite important impact in the past. Our contract with the UNICA network to support the higher education experts has just been renewed, and we are looking forward at a lot of new activities over the next 2 years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that you will all have lots of ideas for projects, for initiatives that you will come up with over the next 2 days, and I'm actually very glad from my point of view to share a good piece of news with you. As you may know, the European Commission has been engaged over the past year in reviewing the European neighbourhood policy, and one of the most tangible results of the review that the European Commission has been undertaking over the past year was really to say that higher education cooperation and that academic exchanges should constitute in the future even more so a priority for the cooperation with the neighbouring countries of the European Union. And one very visible sign of this is that the budget for the Tempus program has been significantly increased. Last year, for the selection of projects that we were undertaking in summer, we were looking at a total budget available for all Tempus countries of around 50 million, so 5-1, and for the selection 5-0. And for the selection that we will undertake and conclude this year in summer, we shall be looking at a total budget that the European Commission will be making available of 94 million. So it is almost double the budget that is being given to us, and that means that we will also be able to select twice as many projects as last year. And I think that this is really a very visible sign of the priority that the European Commission attaches to this type of cooperation, and especially in a time period where austerity is dominating the discussion on public budgets. I think this is really very encouraging to know that the European Commission believes very much in this type of international cooperation. And the good news is, once more, that this is not a one-off exercise, so it was not just for one call of proposals that the European Commission would have increased the funds, but it will also continue. So for the call for proposals that we will issue this year in October, once more, we shall be looking at a budget of between 85 and 90 million, and we certainly look forward to receiving very many good project proposals at our deadline next year in February. So the perspectives for Tempus for the next 2 years to come until the end of the current, as we call them, financial perspectives are very good. And I'm also very pleased to say that as of 2014, the perspectives for this type of cooperation are also quite good. As you may know, the European Commission has just tabled a proposal for the future higher education, training, youth program, and that new program will enter into force as of 2014, with a steeply increased budget, we hope. And this new program will also incorporate the international cooperation activities that we're currently running under Tempus. And the current proposal of the Commission foresees that this type of international cooperation, so between the European Union and third countries, should get a budget of around 1.8 billion euros for the 7 years over the period between 2014 and 2020. And the good news for the Tempus community is definitely that what we are currently doing under Tempus, so capacity building, joint projects and structural measures, will definitely continue in the future as well in the framework of this new program. So, ladies and gentlemen, all this, you will agree, are certainly quite good news for the immediate and also for the long-term future that we will be looking at. And I'm very pleased that this conference here in Vilnius takes place against this very positive and very encouraging background. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude my welcome address and would like to wish you and all of us a very successful and a fruitful conference here in Vilnius over the next 2 days. Thank you.